welcome to the Pat Life Podcast. As always, I am Patrick, and today I have with me a special guest that I've been looking forward to for a very long time, Mr. George Wiseman. How's it going?
It's awesome. Things are crazy busy over here.
That's a good sign. That is a good sign. And for those listening, some of them may know who you are. I don't think a lot of people actually do know as much of what you're doing unless they've been following your work. So with that, I've listened to a lot of your podcasts. I've listened to a lot of how you approach it. And as much as it's repetitive for you, maybe, I think it is the best way to approach it is kind of telling everyone who you are, kind of your backstory and how you got to where you are. So when we start talking about the meat and potatoes of things, it's kind of people can make sense of what's going on. So with that, would you care to share a little bit about you?
Oh my, how long is your podcast?
I was gonna say.
Okay, let's say I think 5 minutes. I can kind of give a brief synopsis, especially coming to the audience that you must have, which is very interested in health and fitness and that sort of thing, happiness and longevity. Okay, so I grew up on a cattle ranch. I learned to pretty much do anything that was needing to be done. Because we lived over a day's drive from town. We didn't have electricity. We used an outhouse, and there was not even any radio, let alone internet back in those days when I was growing up. We'd get up at 4 a.m. and saddle up the horses and go riding. And that's, like I say, I grew up on a real cattle ranch. It was like living in the 1800s. Then of course I'd go to school, and I loved going to school because at school I didn't have to work so hard. And I thought one of these days I'll find an occupation where I don't have to work so hard. And I did, and now I regret it because I actually preferred I preferred being well shaped. I was really strong and healthy in those days, as you can imagine, working outdoors all the time and what have you. And of course, Mom grew a great big garden, so it was
Sounds perfect.
right to the earth. Yeah, exactly. So in any case, all that aside, I specialized in mathematics and physics and such like that because I seem to have an aptitude toward that, as well as mechanics and what have you. And grew up, got married, and what have you. Then I came to a point in my life where I needed to. I just kind of worked my way into being an inventor. So grew up as a cowboy. You can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy.
Sad. I've seen it. I don't know if that's the same one I've seen in some of the lectures that you've done, but it always shines through when you see that hat. You know, it's
I got a bit of a collection going on there. So in any case, I enjoy the morals and integrity of the cowboy life and what have you. So I got into fuel savers because one of my occupations is a mechanic, automotive mechanic, and I did really well with that back in the 80s. And because of Brown's gas, I heard about this thing called Brown's gas, and I decided I wanted one, and I looked for one, and the quote I got was $300,000 for a Brown's gas machine, which was just a teensy bit out of my budget at the time. And so I decided as an inventor, I would just simply research it, find out how it was built, the working principles, and just build my own. And I did. And my machine ended up being half the size, half the weight, and produced the same quantity of gas with half the electricity. I consider myself to be an alternative energy researcher and inventor. And I had put my technology into it as best I could. And when we finally could compare them, my machine was much, much better than anything that had been built in the past. I started selling those machines as what I called water torches, where you took, for acetylene, if you have an acetylene torch, you replace the acetylene with the Brown's gas, and it did everything acetylene would do better. It was an amazing torch fuel. Except weld iron, it tended to oxidize it, but that made it cut iron 30% faster, which is generally what they were using torches for. Wow. In any case, now we come to the health aspect. One of my customers in 1996 told me that he had, that's my, alarm that we're going to be on here.
No worries.
And then one of my customers told me that he had cured a melanoma on his forehead, skin cancer, in 3 weeks' time by bubbling the Brown's gas into water and putting the water in a plastic cap with a cotton in there, and just kept re-wetting it and putting it on there. And in 3 weeks' time, his melanoma was gone, which I did not believe him. I quite literally did not think that that was possible. It was like magic.
Mm-hmm.
So being the open-minded inventor that I'm not, however, I did tell my customers and my email list and such that this was a possible health aspect, was a possible use of the gas. And that was in 1996. Testimonials were coming in where people were trying it, and amazing variety of things that people were saying. And I kind of still didn't believe any of them either, even though I was the inventor of the machine that they were using.
Clarification, you mean this is just the water at this point, correct?
That's correct. Just the bubbled water. Yeah.
And that will make sense later as we talk, everyone who doesn't know what I'm saying. So
yes, yes, very good. So the yeah, you have listened to my other podcast, so you know where this is going. In any case, the in 2005, I was finally convinced to try drinking the bubbled water myself. So 9 years, I was getting these testimonials in from my customers, and I never drank the bubbled water myself. So obviously I'm not very open-minded. However, and then for 2 years, I drank the bubbled water. In 2007, I had, from 2005 to 2007, and since then too, by the way, I never got sick. I used to get 3 colds, like the sniffles and coughs and everything, winter. It would just get over one and I'd get another, and get over that and get the third one. And that was virtually all my life. I had that sort of thing. For 2 winters, I didn't get sick at all. Right. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to support this. So I built a little machine, tabletop electrolyzer, so that people didn't have to buy the great big cumbersome machines that plugged into 240 volts and what have you. Right. And then anybody could have one in their house. And my customers were generally do-it-yourselfer kind of guys and such anyway. Did really well selling those machines. And then they started to ask me, can we inhale the gas? Now, remember, I used it for fuel savers in combustion, internal combustion, and I used it for fueling acetylene torches. So I knew the gas is a combustible gas. And so I'd say, no, you don't want a combustible gas. It wasn't unhealthy, like the gas is very healthy, but I didn't want an combustible gas in a person's lungs. I could just imagine what could possibly happen.
Right.
And but in 2015, December of 2015, a customer sent me a video of a Korean hydrogen bar that was using Brown's gas. They were using the Epoch machines, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. So and I knew of that technology, so I knew it was Brown's gas, and I saw them inhaling the gas, going in and buying a treatment like we'd buy a cup of coffee in America.
Right.
So and I realized, sometimes you're just blind to the obvious things. And I realized that as soon as the gas goes a quarter inch away from the end of the hose or nozzle, wherever it's coming out, in this case, we have the cannulas, which I actually inhale as I'm sitting at my computer. So I'm going to start that now. So a quarter inch away from the end of the cannula, where the gas is coming out, the hydrogen has diffused enough in the air that it's no longer combustible. So if you keep the gas at a small enough volume, a regulated volume for your particular size, you don't have to worry about combustible mixture in your lungs, because what you're inhaling is not combustible. There's only a tiny amount of the hydrogen. It's under the what's called the 4.7% in air combustibility limit. If it's too little hydrogen, it can't combust.
Right.
So even if the gas in the hose was to be ignited in one way or another, the ignition would go back into the machine, but it would never go into the person. So that made it safe. Because of the situation that was going on in my life at the time in 2016, at that time I was taking care of my late wife. 24/7. And she was in really bad shape, and I couldn't do any further research from the time in December when the guy sent me the video. But in March of 2016, she died, and that was a really, really bad time in my life. And I really honestly didn't care if I lived or died. I had lost interest in any of that sort of thing. But as I was sitting on the couch, I thought of this video and kind of getting back into my work, because at that point I'd been taking care of this lady for about 5 years, and I had become 24/7 caretaker. My business had failed. I was deeply in debt. In order to pay hospital bills or medical bills and stuff, I spent everything I could, and I couldn't work because I was 24/7 caretaker for her. So it was a bad time, and I was always hoping she would get better. She was an amazing woman, multimedia artist, intelligent, happy, just enjoyed life. We did a lot of good things together. It was a good life, but she passed, and my life just ended. Everything in that previous life, all our hopes and dreams, it just kind of went with her. So I decided that I would try inhaling the Brown's gas at that particular time, because I videoed myself doing it, and that video is on my YouTube channel. Because I felt if something happened, I would, there'd at least be a video record of my idiocy. So I literally had these sort of thoughts, and so I inhaled, and that night I only inhaled 15 minutes. I think that first time, and that night I didn't sleep at all. I literally was wide awake and alert all night. Now, wide awake and alert is nice when you're sitting here at the computer, and these days I work from 5 in the morning till 8:30 at night, and it's nice to have that alertness. But at that time, it was very disconcerting, because the way I grew up, like our house, the ranch house, was 25 feet square, and in there we lived the 9 of us, my 7 brothers, or my 6. I had 3 brothers and 3 sisters, so 7 kids, plus mom and dad, plus the dogs and cats and everything else that were living in that very small house.
Right.
You can imagine I learned to just sleep anytime without worry. So like, and it was very disconcerting to be awake all night. I'd never had that happen before in my entire life. So, but it wasn't a bad thing. It was just one of those things. So I started inhaling only in the mornings. So by night, I could fall asleep okay. And then later I found that I could inhale. Once my body got used to the hydrogen, I could inhale all the time. All right, that aside, I all of a sudden started to have health benefits that I had never realized would happen. I was just inhaling to prove that it was safe, that it would be good. But what happened was I had neuropathy in this hand, in my left hand. The feeling was leaving my hand. I had neuropathy on the fronts of my legs. I had a bunch of things going on with me. Psoriasis, for example. I thought it was just on my elbows, knees, and feet. I thought it was just calluses, because I'd had calluses all my life from working hard on the ranch, and I didn't realize that it was psoriasis. So when my skin started to peel off like it was snake losing its skin, I was like, this was very weird. But underneath was baby smooth, healthy skin. It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I'll tell a little bit more about some of the other things as we proceed. But I started noticing these health benefits, so I decided, okay, I would recommend the Brown's gas for inhalation, and then I would so I rigged it up, and I told people, and the testimonials that started coming into that now were amazing. The bubbled water is good, and it's going to be, and it's needed. You need to do at least the bubbled water, but it's 10 times more therapeutically beneficial to inhale the gas and put it like essentially directly into your bloodstream, and then it goes out into your body.
Right.
And the health benefits I have 100 stories of the people probably thousands, but 100 I could just think of and just go one after another kind of thing, that I've seen with my own eyes, because I've attended events and stuff, and I've had the machines demonstrated there. And even in a very short time, some people can get an amazing benefit. Sometimes it takes weeks or something for people to notice. But just quickly, this one particular fellow, he shuffled in behind his son, like a zombie. He just literally just shuffling along. And his son and him sat down and we put a cannula on him. And during about 15 minutes, I so wish we had a video of this. It was astonishing. Within about 15 minutes, the man went from cold staring autonomon to a lively, joking, amazing man. The stories he could tell and the jokes he would tell and everything, but he literally just came to life. It was like his brain turned on. They did by a machine. So it was astonishing to watch this happen, and it kind of just faded in. It wasn't like a light switch or something like that. As he was inhaling, he just became more and more alert, and then started to get into the conversation, and then pretty soon he's pretty much the life of the party kind of thing.
Absolutely.
It was astonishing.
And did he himself and his son say, like, what is this? Like, how is this? Like, so it wasn't just from your point of view, like, were they making some sort of commentary as well?
Exactly. It was astonishing to the son. And of course, the old man was, he just came to life and didn't really, it's like he didn't know that he wasn't,
Yeah,
but the son really noticed, and it was astonishing.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And now, go on, please.
Yes. Okay. So in any case, one of the things that happened, that really almost floored me again, really, really, really hard, and is why I'm so passionate about making sure, or helping people with this particular technology, is, and I just got another email from this particular woman just the other day, in fact. Um, in about 3 months' time, after I had recommended that people start inhaling and stuff, and that was with my old ER50 design, a woman got back in touch with me who had lupus, and told me that in 3 weeks' time of inhaling, her lupus symptoms entirely disappeared. Now, lupus can be relatively mild or very severe. My late wife had severe lupus, and it was, this is one of the hardest things in my life to talk about, but it's important because I was told about the healthful benefits of this gas in 1996. I didn't start paying attention to the bubbled water until 2005. I didn't start, so I had this technology. It was given to me by God, if you will, the universe. It's amazing the kind of thing that happens. And I had this technology that could have, in my opinion, cured my wife of this severe disease, and she'd still be with us today. So I wasn't able to save her because I didn't pay attention enough. And we worked so hard trying to find answers, and I had the answer in my own shop all that time. So I don't want anyone to suffer like we suffered, because it isn't just her who lost her eyesight and her hair and couldn't even roll over in bed without assistance. I had to carry her to the bathroom. It wasn't just her that suffered, it was her support system as well. So it's important to me to try to make sure that people be as healthy as possible for as long as possible, because it turns out when you're in having this gas, if you're looking at the mouse studies and some Japan generics studies, geriatric studies, excuse me, this looks like it will increase healthful lifespan by about 30%. And if you can imagine what that will do for people. So in any case, I'm very passionate about this. Now, one of the things that happened when I was inhaling was that my libido came back. I was, I think, a normal guy in my 50s at the time. And we did normal amount, but it was like I was a teenager again. It was really, really something. And I couldn't, it was impossible to not want to live. Like I said, I'd lost my interest in even being alive. There were times when I would, I'd feel such a tightness in my chest. I'd realized I hadn't breathed. I had stopped breathing. It was that bad. But once my libido came back, I can tell you that it's practically impossible to not be interested in living when you're very interested in the opposite sex.
Absolutely.
So I am remarried, and I'm enjoying life very much. So, but my present wife said, no way any woman was going to want that science experiment in their house. It was just a collection of tubes and stuff like that. So she said, you better make it look nice and put it in a case. And that's how the AC50 came about. And we've improved it since then. I'm very proud of our machine. And so the AC50 provides the Brown's gas necessary for all what I call the 4 protocols. And I have 2 more protocols coming. All the AC50s are designed to support the extra 2 protocols when they come. So we have the inhalation of the gas, and you can bag the gas, like you can put a glove on, for example. I had arthritis as well, and I now have absolutely pain-free, no swelling, and like I say, my neuropathies disappeared and stuff like that as well. So I'm able to put the gas in the glove and treat it that way. You can also inhale, and then you can bubble it in the water. You can drink the water. That's the 3rd protocol. And you can apply the water to your skin, like that original guy who cured his melanoma, which, by the way, that has been duplicated in Germany. And I have pictures of that particular fellow. So and again, in 3 weeks' time, it was gone. So it's just amazing health benefits. So that's kind of the history and the reason why I'm doing this. Can I kind of explain why I think it works?
I want you to go off. I'm so fascinated by you and your story. So this is for you. Well, it's for me to enjoy. So
Yeah. Okay.
please.
Well, it works because our bodies are 70% hydrogen by volume, not by weight, but by volume. So if you can imagine that, sorry, 62%. 62% by volume is our hydrogen, and then we have 24% oxygen and 12% carbon and 2% everything else. So usually when people are talking about nutrition, they're talking about that 2% instead of the 62%.
Yep.
Okay. But you can't inhale hydrogen from the air like you can with oxygen, for example. And people are probably fairly aware that you get your carbon and other nutrition from your food. They're not really aware that you get your hydrogen from your food as well, hydrocarbons, okay? Hydrocarbon food. But it's really difficult to break hydrogen off from anything. Hydrogen is very solidly attached to things, like in a molecular form. So your digestion starts in your mouth with the enzymes and chewing and stuff, and goes into your stomach with the acids, and then the gall and all that stuff happens in the small intestines. But the hydrogen actually doesn't get detached from your food until you get into the colon. Okay, so just before you're exiting the backside, that's where the hydrogen gets broken off, and it actually goes right through the intestine into your bloodstream there. So your guts actually breathe as well.
Absolutely.
However, in our modern society, we've had glyphosate, all kinds of antibiotics. Like you can get even in your food that people are eating, artificial sweeteners, an amazing volume of all these things that kill those specialized bacteria in your colon.
Yep.
Because that break off the hydrogen. So it is possible to break off the hydrogen with the unspecialized bacteria, and that's why people can even really stay alive after taking antibiotics.
Yep.
Modern miracle, got to have them. I just saw a fellow, one of my friends, just a couple of days ago. He had some dental work done, and he got an infection, and it spread into his sinuses and stuff. Literally, his eye was looking like it was going to pop out of his head. It was that kind of infection. And in like 3 days time with the antibiotics, it cleared it all up and kind of thing. Antibiotics are great. However, they kill those bacteria that you really need. So you got a short-term gain, but then you have a long-term reduction in immune efficient or your immunity, your immune system's efficacy, because you've gotten rid of those bacteria that give you the hydrogen necessary for your immune system. Okay.
Right.
So we go back to, you're mostly hydrogen, you need your hydrogen, you get your hydrogen from your food, but only if you have your guts working properly, your microbiome. So we look at what happens to the body. If the body isn't getting enough hydrogen, then it starts shutting off what we would call extraneous systems that aren't immediately life-threatening in order to preserve the hydrogen that it has. So the first thing that shuts off is your regeneration system. The next thing is your immune systems, then your organs start to shut down and you die. So that's kind of the hierarchy there. When I started to inhale, one of the first things that happened was my heart healed. I've virtually all my life, I had a heart murmur, which is a fluttery weak heart valve. I had a physical, a full physical, because when I moved to where I am now, we got set up a new doctor and he had a full physical and everything. And I said, I have a heart murmur. He said, no, you don't. And and of course, my immune system, well, the next thing that happened that I noticed was that I had hand warts and I had a plantar's wart on my foot. Kind of nasty things to talk about, but they're gone. My immune system got strong enough that it got rid of these viruses that I'd had for like 50 years. It was because I got those sort of things when I was a child.
Yep.
And so my immune system was coming back online. But the two things that really were amazing was, for example, the neuropathy disappeared, which I had told you about before, but also things like my tinnitus. I had tinnitus so loud that I could barely hear people speak. It was tough. Yeah.
My
So
grandpa has the same thing. So
yeah. But my scars disappeared. Now, when it takes a lot for the skin to heal, because you have nerves and all kinds of things in your skin that need to be you need your body's regeneration system with stem cells and such. So my stem cell system turned back on. Now people go and pay $100,000 for a stem cell treatment these days.
yeah.
And yet you can do that yourself with your own body if it has the nutrition to do that. Your body knows how to heal itself if it has what it needs. So I don't know if you can see, but I have I had a centimeter square scar right here on my forehead.
I'm looking in that kind of area. It's kind of where I was looking. Yeah.
And I'm trying to wiggle it in just a way that you can. Anyway,
Yeah.
I can still wiggle it where the scar will. You can kind of see where the scar was, but it's skin now. And I accumulated quite a few scars when I was a kid and growing up on the ranch and stuff, and they're all gone. It's like all new skin. It's incredible. So and I don't wear glasses anymore. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see me when I was in my 40s, and you'll see with the glasses and all that kind of stuff. So I don't have perfect vision, but I'm certainly seeing well enough that I don't bother wearing glasses. So just on and on, the various things that happened when I started inhaling the gas. So you can understand why I inhale at every chance I get, because
Right. This, if I may kind of jump in here, this is
absolutely
so fascinating to me by listening, especially. So I just real quick, I came about you from friends who are very, very intelligent individuals, very much outside the box thinkers to what's considered mainstream. And they're the ones saying, you need to listen to this guy. And when I told them, I told him that I would be having you on, he was like, I am very much looking forward to that. Shout out to my buddy Lucas King and Benjamin Boulder, said very, very fascinating gentlemen. That being said, when I started watching your stuff, is you were going through the one thing specifically is you were just speaking about the hydrogen. That was so fascinating to me. One of the main reasons is because for those who know my show, I've been a trainer for 10 years, personal trainer. And I've been in a system where we were taught the things that we were taught. And it was always that same thing where it was something was missing. That mindset of like, there's something's not right here. What is going on here? And that's taken me down so many paths. But one of the things I couldn't understand was that how many people came in with ailments, and the answer, they're like, oh, my doctor says I need this or I need that. And we were trying to just move and eat just what I would consider generic healthy, mainstream idea of healthy. And what started happening is some people would see the changes. They wouldn't have to take prescriptions or this and that, but they were still on so many things. They had so many underlying ailments. And for me, it was going, why is it that we're almost in a way where there's this dependency that body that doesn't seem right? And this is before my journey back to God and really understanding the power of our purpose here. And it dawned on me as time has gone on and as I've started this podcast and talking to such intelligent, brilliant people like yourself with so much knowledge that the answer is always within us. It has been, the solution has been within us. And as you were talking and I was listening months back where you were speaking about this hydrogen, it was going, wow, as you said, the answers are in front of us the whole time. It's just knowing and paying attention, right? And as you said, 62% of our body volume is hydrogen. And for me, that was so fascinating because then as you said, it leads into, well, where are you getting it from? The food? Well, what's the issue with our food today? Well, we're not utilizing your own feces in our own, as you said, cow manures and things where you're utilizing the plants or the fertilizer that's already on your farms to regenerate that energy, regenerate that soil, fungus, all the good bacteria that your body needs to give you these rich nutrients. And that for me just blew my mind. And I think you were also talking about, and then maybe this is you or if this was in another person, but being that most of our nutrients today are only coming from NPK, you're getting your sodiums, your potassiums, and in salt and things like that, and we're missing out phosphorus, and we're missing out on so many nutrients. Would you say that obviously, with kind of your research and things like that, that's something that you've been able to talk about?
Absolutely. The food that we're eating today is very nutritionally deficient. Generally, you're talking about the 2% thing there. We're talking about selenium and nutrition like that. And they are very important. There's no question. I have experiences on the ranch that I could say to demonstrate that sort of thing. But hydrogen is also the contributed. It's part of, or it's in every single chemical reaction that is happening in the body. Hydrogen is necessary in one way or another. And when we're talking about fitness, it's particularly important. One of the things that I noticed was that my muscles hardened when I started inhaling the gas, and without very much exercise or anything like that. And one of the things with the house that I'm living in right now, we were doing some work on the foundation, and there was a jackhammer work that needed to be done. And, and these 20-year-olds that are out there these days they didn't work in the mines or grow up on a ranch or something like that. They were scared of that jackhammer. So I grabbed that jackhammer and I jackhammered the foundation, and I thought I was really going to have to pay for that. I did about 4 hours of jackhammer work, and I really hadn't even been doing any exercise for a couple of decades.
Right.
And nope, not a single sore muscle.
That's wild.
I was astonished. Now, I didn't overwork myself, and I have since then exercised in such a way that right to the extreme where my muscles just couldn't do it anymore, and kind of thing. And then I'd get a sore muscle or two. But and there was another time when I had a sprained shoulder. I sprained my shoulder pounding in a fence post with a fence post pounder I just made up out of a pipe and such. It was steel posts, and I sprained my shoulder. And from experience, I knew that would take about 3 weeks to heal. It was a pretty bad sprain. 3 days. Wow. In 3 days, I was pain-free, had full strength. It was astonishing.
And so let me ask you so for those listening, how old are you at this time? If I may.
I'm 63.
63. Okay.
Yeah.
So just thinking, and just real quick before you keep going, I've dealt with people in their 30s, 20s, 40s, who these types of injuries or these types of setbacks, let's just call them, because they become chronic when they should be acute, or when they can have the potential to be very acute, they become chronic for these people. Now it could be so many things, but that just, I want people to really take that into consideration, because as we talk more about Brown's gas and what it is and all these different components, see that age is just a number in so many ways. It really is just a number.
Yes. I actually look like I did 15 years ago at this particular point when we're comparing pictures. When I started, if you look on my YouTube channel, and you see that first video that I did, when you'll see that I was snow white as far as the beard and such is gone. So I've gotten color back, and my hair is now gray again, and it was white as well. And you can't quite see it in the video, but
No, I can see it.
up on the top of my head and stuff. Whereas I was shiny bald before. So it was there. It's like it happened fairly quickly at first in the first couple of years when I started to inhale, and now it's kind of tapered off. But and my look and my age is pretty much just staying. I look the same. It's like I stopped aging.
It's incredible. And so there's so much we've talked about, and I appreciate your stories, and I really appreciate you going into the the pathos behind a lot of this, because that is something that is super important, even in my job and any job, is that we want to connect to sources that we're getting our food from, getting our equipment from, our materials. And as you said, your goal and your aspirations here is to help others, just like I am, just like many of us are. But what's also interesting is we're in a time where this seems fringe, this seems out of the box, this seems so out there that these people can't possibly try to help you. And this isn't coming from like a temper of any kind or any sort of anger. It's actually coming from going, that's okay. Like, we'll still continue to try to help however we can. Hence why I love your message and your story. And we'll talk more about at the end about what you have to offer and all the discounts and things like that. But if I may, can we maybe just dive into what is Brown's gas? Because some people are like, what is this?
That's a really good question and subject to cover. Thank you. I know these things so much, I tend to forget that other people don't. Okay, so Brown's gas is a mixture of hydrogen, oxygen, and electrically expanded water. And the electrically expanded water portion is what makes Brown's gas better than just straight hydrogen. Straight hydrogen is good. People should be getting at least that as a supplement. The Brown's gas, however, gives you this additional negatively charged plasma form of water, which is a long way of saying that water molecules have absorbed electrons like a sponge absorbs water until the water molecule itself has become a gaseous form of water that is not water vapor or steam. Okay, if you cool it, it won't condense. It stays as a gas. So this is a cold plasma. It's the fourth state of matter. You have your solid, your liquid, your solid, your gas, and your plasma. Okay. So this electrically expanded water, the electrons in it are bioavailable. So in addition to hydrogen, because hydrogen essentially is the building block of life. You can think of it as a brick. And a brick doesn't do anything until energy is applied to it. Like if you're going to build a brick house, you got to have somebody come over and carry the bricks and put them in place. Your body uses electrons for energy. It makes the ATP and all the kinds of things in the cells. You need, and electrons do things like stopping oxidative cascade and fixing oxidative damage, because oxidation is essentially burning, and it's getting electron deficient. So just imagine if you have an electron deficient cell, and it will grab an electron from another cell. Now that one's electron deficient, so it grabs an electron from another one, and so this is called the cascade. So along comes something that has a whole bunch of extra electrons to give, and just gives electrons to everywhere it needs it, and all that inflammation and oxidation stops. So anything that's being caused by that stops. And that's one of the things that Brown's gas does is stop inappropriate inflammation. Inflammation is good and needed to heal because it tells the body and brings the defenses, but then the inflammation has to stop while the healing continues. And another thing is that hydrogen is the world's best antioxidant because it's a selective antioxidant. Unlike if you take large volumes of vitamin C, which is beneficial in some cases. But these kind of antioxidants take away all of your free radicals. For example, nitrous oxide. You need that nitrous oxide for your blood vessels and stuff to maintain elasticity and to for us guys to have erections and things like that. It's necessary to have some of these free radicals in the body. So, but hydrogen only gets rid of the bad ones and leaves the good ones alone. Hydrogen's also very much smaller, like 400 times smaller than vitamin E, for example. So it's able to go right and penetrate right into the cells and into the structure of your body and heal things, even in the DNA of your cells and what have you, can be healed with the hydrogen. The body knows how to heal itself given what it needs. Okay, back to what is Brown's gas. Okay. When you make hydrogen in a traditional Faraday electrolyzer, the hydrogen goes off in one tube and the oxygen goes off in another. With the Brown's gas electrolyzers, there's no membrane in the middle. So the hydrogen and oxygen all goes out the same hose. It turns out, though, that there's a third gas that's generated in the middle, in between the cathode and the anode, cathode making the hydrogen and the anode making the oxygen. This third gas comes right out of the fluid in no contact with the plates itself, because essentially what we're discovering is there's an electron bridge that's built across between the cathode and the anode. And in the middle on this bridge, the electrons are actually being stuffed into the water, and the water is turning into a gaseous form of water that then comes out with the other two gases, the hydrogen and oxygen. So the Brown's gas has this electron-rich gas that comes out of it, water, that these electrons are therapeutically active and help the hydrogen do its thing. So and usually when people are ill, they have, first of all, used up energy, they've depleted their energy reserves, and quite often their energy generation systems have become compromised. So adding energy, bioavailable energy into the body along with the hydrogen really helps the therapeutic value of the gas, which is why the Brown's gas is seeming, there's a study happening right now in Germany, seems to about 30% more therapeutically effective than than straight hydrogen alone. So it's the electrically expanded water. Okay.
That is, and this is why it's so incredible to me, because when you start to experience how how just excited the body is when you give it exactly what it needs, the potential for, not just the potential for healing, but the potential past that, like you said with yourself, of what you're able to do, not just trying to deal with inflammation and heal, but like, all right, I'm healed. What more can I do? Moving yourself in ways that you never thought possible. And it is interesting, even more than that, is when you were talking about the 2% being where a lot of the attention and focus is today, just how much you can heal. And I put that in quotations only because some people, maybe it is psychological, maybe it is, maybe it's not, maybe they're not getting the right bioavailable vitamin C's or vitamin D's, but at least starting that process of trying to give your body what it needs, how much you see just in that. And this is why I'm so fascinated by the human potential, because just looking at it from this standpoint, when you start to see that point where you start giving the body everything it needs, and then you realize with what you're doing, there's that next level that has been the level the whole time, and this is what your body needs more than anything. As you said, the trickle effect begins. If we're compromised, as you said, reproductive systems, that's the first thing that's going to go, and then it becomes your immune system, and then your organs. Well, you start to see, and you know this, but for those listening, when you start to see how many people have erectile dysfunctions, or how many people have issues with menopause, or ovarian issues, or testicular issues, like this isn't an accident. And yes, it is more than just that. It's, I think, in many ways, and I believe in many ways, that it's emotional, psychological, spiritual in that regard too. But when you start to see then how many people are immunocompromised, how many people have organ issues, how many people are having organ transplants, and you realize just the trickle effect beginning, and more people having it, you realize, wow, my only thought process from this point on has been, this is just how it's going to be for a lot of people. And then you come in with something like you're doing, or people even just trying to make healthier choices in their life, and they see themselves getting better. But you see something like this and you go, wait a minute, not everybody. Majority of us can actually allow our body to do what it was meant to do, and that is to heal. And for those who might be like, well, that seems a little far-fetched, just watch a scab heal. Is that not exactly what we're talking about? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that for me is where I'm just completely enthralled with what you're talking about. And I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add. If you do, please go. But I did have a question to follow up.
Go for it.
So with the Brown's gas, being that this is something that you've created, was it ever present just in nature that you were aware of, or do you have any insight on where it was, if it was just already there in that, or is this something where there's no way of getting it unless you just put it through a machine?
I have really, really thought about that a lot. Because virtually God created the planet the way he did. And I have lived in the Yukon. I've lived in deserts. I was born in Montana, went to Oregon in the desert, went to live in Alaska for a few years. In every environment, now I grew up in a fairly natural environment, but in every environment I discovered plants and animals and such that humans can live virtually everywhere. Like if you need vitamin C in the north, the little buds that come on conifer trees are high in vitamin C, for example.
Right.
It's astonishing how all the nutrition you need is available anywhere on the planet. And I've thought about this so much as to where a person would get the hydrogen if it was just kind of coming naturally in the environment. And the only place I've been able to consider it is eating in the food. But I have this thought that maybe there was a time when the planet actually had more hydrogen in the air or something than it does now. Something we developed to need that we're kind of starving on now. Maybe that's why Adam and lived to be 900 years old or something, is because back in those days if you're looking at the Bible, the earth seemed to be encapsulated in something that came down, and then there could be rain and rainbows and stuff after that. But so something changed. In any case, I don't know where a natural thing would be now, but I have tried to figure out something. I have tried to answer that question. Can't yet.
Yeah. Well, for those who watch my channel, myself included, you realize, and you understand as well, we can kind of dive into that here today, is that there's a lot of powers that be that don't want certain things out there due to many reasons, but that's not a despairing thing. It is what it is. And you've experienced that firsthand with your things, and we'll go into that. But to kind of go a little bit more, I'm also under the impression that when you also just look, let me start back here. I have a lot of friends who do a lot of farming, yourself included, but I also have a lot of people that I know that are huge in greenhouses. They really understand greenhouses. I don't know where you are with that, but what they've told me and when they talk about it is just, again, when you're able to give it more air, like proper air, proper hydrogen, you're going to see plant growth. You're going to see an increase in plant growth. You're going to see size, shapes. And I know with your studies, you've seen growth in animals, which we can get in here real quick after I finish this. But the point being is that if we look at a greenhouse, and I'll just expand that, as you said, was there a time? I firmly believe that there was a time. When you also look at the Bible and you look in many cultures here that were in some sort of dome. I'm not saying it's a flat earth. I can't say with certainty, but let's just be honest, it's not what we're told it is. It's something different. But if we're talking about a dome shape, could be possibly plasma. All that being said, what's enclosed and what is in here, right? We're already in oxygen, we have this, but was there a time where in this enclosed system, there was something at a greater capacity? I firmly believe that could be the case. Just look at history, look at cultures, look at these stories, these mythical stories. Everything is already there. Just like you were saying, the answers are always in front of us. It's just whether we have eyes to see. I know I kind of went on there, but would you maybe want to take it in the direction? I know we're kind of jumping around here, but people are probably thinking, well, if you have something so great and so wonderful, why isn't this mainstream? Why isn't everyone getting this? Where I should have known you by now in the mainstream that this was so great to cure people or help people, I should say. Do you want to share some of those stories? Because those were fascinating to me.
Yeah, there's just a quick history of the Brown's gas would probably help. It was first patented by a fellow by the name of William Rhodes in Phoenix, Arizona. who was actually a rocket scientist for real. And I did meet him and we became friends, and he shared his research notes with me on how he made the patent for what we know as Brown's gas. He called it single ducted gas at that time. And his research notes and mine were virtually identical. I had duplicated his research 20 years after he did. So the Yule Brown, he was now in Australia, referenced William Rhodes' work when he made his patents, and I call it Brown's gas. I continue to call it Brown's gas in honor of Yule Brown instead of William Rhodes, because Yule Brown made the gas worldwide known. He commercialized the gas and got the Asians into it in a big way, and the Asians are way ahead of us with Brown's gas. Now, part of that is because in the last 15, 20 years, they've done a huge upgrade of their infrastructure and what have you. So they didn't have infrastructure in place like the acetylene bottles and things like that. They just kind of jumped ahead to the technology that exists now, so that they just powered their torches and lots of different things with the Brown's gas instead of putting in a acetylene bottle infrastructure kind of thing. Okay, so as this continues, we were talking about the burning of the Brown's gas, and there's at least 30 different applications for Brown's gas that he was commercializing at the time. And there were some things that he was saying that it could do, but there were already things on the shelf that could do those things better. I call that the myth applications. Anyway, getting back to the history, so he's the one that kind of made Brown's gas available, and then there were people who started branding it themselves, like Denny Klein in Florida came up with the HHO name, and he did it because he wanted to separate himself from Brown's gas, the name Brown's gas, so he could get patents, so he could get investors, because you couldn't patent something that already existed. And I found that to be a little bit fraudulent, and he's passed on, so we'll just leave that alone. But the interesting thing was that he passed on, and the gas could have saved him too. And same with Yule Brown. Yule Brown died of sepsis because he wouldn't have his leg treated, and he could have treated himself. If he'd have been inhaling the gas, he probably never would have gotten the infection that killed him. So it's very interesting how these inventors and developers did all that. So, but also I've discovered in my research that hydrogen for health isn't new. It's actually very old. A couple of 100 years ago, they were experimenting with things that they didn't quite know it was hydrogen at that time. But even back in Michael Faraday's day, there were people who were experimenting with hydrogen for health, but it just kind of got suppressed. And by the early 1900s, the big pharma, what we know as big pharma now, with Rothschilds and that sort of thing, just suppressed anything that was alternative to making money, essentially making money. So the idea of medicine went from trying to keep people healthy and out of essentially hospitals and medical care to keeping people just slightly sick and treating symptoms instead of disease.
Yeah.
And so if you give a person a pill that takes away the symptoms but doesn't actually help the body heal from what it is, that was the ideal thing for modern medicine, because the people felt okay, but then they had to keep coming back and back and back and getting these various medicines that wouldn't actually help the body heal. And I think that's kind of where we are at the moment, in a very exaggerated way, in that the modern medicine is trying to do things in such a way that doesn't actually stop the disease, but just gives a placebo, not a placebo, a mitigation, maybe that's a better word, to stop a particular symptom kind of a thing.
Absolutely.
Instead of getting the immune system completely upgraded, and so people don't even believe in their own bodies anymore. They believe in the medicine rather than the wondrous thing that we live in. It's astonishing. The more I learn about the body, the more I'm just absolutely amazed at its healing ability if given what it needs. So I think that we just haven't been aware because the vested interest hasn't wanted us to be aware. Otherwise, if and the best we can do is just kind of bypass that and just kind of ground level grassroots develop something that actually works. And there's a lot of that. There's medicines that are thousands of years old that modern medicine actually, like say aspirin, for example, comes from the willow bark,
Yep.
the inner part of willow bark. And when you take the inner part of the willow bark, you get all the micronutrients that's needed to prevent the problems that aspirin has. Aspirin tends to abrade the blood vessels and what have you inside. But if you take it in its original form, it comes with the things that prevent those sort of side effects in the taking away the pain and what have you. Same with things like rose hips for vitamin C.
Yeah.
It has the bioflavonoids and all the things that help the vitamin C really work in the body. So that if you go right back to the nature and the healing that we've known for thousands of years, that people, I don't know how, depending on the timeline, you think the world is.
Right, right.
But in any case,
It's
big
not what they
pharma, yeah. So I think it's just been suppressed from us, and it isn't new. Like I say, it's been around for at least over 100 years. People have been aware, but those things, just like it's germ theory, terrain theory, for example, and how the germ theory was more profitable, so it essentially got the attention of the people who had money, and that's the terrain theory just kind of went by the side. And if we were concentrating on the terrain theory, which essentially is making your body into a clean and efficient um, self, we don't almost have no disease in my humble opinion.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I mean, if you just look at it, it's follow the money, but also when it gets to higher levels, right, you understand it's obviously a lot more spiritual than what many people want to see rather than believe, but truly see. And that's what, as you said, a lot of people in the field of medicines, allopathic medicine specifically, and I know this firsthand, it's a matter of loss of connection to nature. The answer, and it's not that people think, oh, all these people are bad, they're evil. When you actually look at a lot of them and they have patients that come in that maybe do natural things and they heal, not just kind of subside pains, but heal. Most of these doctors are genuinely in awe. They can't believe what they're seeing. So if someone can't believe what they're experiencing with the patient and they go, wait, what happened? I've never seen this. It makes me think, is this person really malicious, right? And don't get me wrong, there's always on both sides, people in natural could be the same thing as well, where they have, ill intention. But when you see that people haven't connected to nature, and someone I listen to, and I don't know if you know Crow 777, he's big, into always talking about this, everything's connected to the sky clock or the constellations of stars. It's always coming back to the sun and the moon. A lot of my friends are alchemists. As I said before, they work in alchemy. So understanding that there's so much happening around us, these alchemical processes, this just beauty around us that's allowing things to work in this perfect harmony when we can perceive it that way and we can give to it, just like giving to the body. Go plant a tree, go give back to the soil. Same thing with your body. Go give it what it needs. It will give back tenfold. And that's what a lot of us are missing. And I think that's why it's a fun, exciting thrill for me of realizing that, like, oh, we've been lied to in the manipulation and the suppressing information, but going, all right, that happened, but what are they suppressing? That's where the answers are. And now at least today it's going, well, what are they calling, quackery? What are they calling this or that? What I want to know what that is, because I'm more often than not, there's some answers in there. There's something worth exploring. So yeah, as you said, it's just going back to nature. It's looking at self again, as I said, perception of going, what am I capable of? What is this perfect vessel? Again, starting off, this was made perfectly. Its resiliency is astounding when we can perceive it and we can give to it and feed that resiliency. And when you start doing that, you start to see that it opens a lot more doors to, as you said, true healing, not just coping, not just mitigating, not just living life going, well, I guess this is how it's going to be for the next 20 years or whatever many years. And that's just for me is why I love what you're doing. And in hearing you talking about it and just going in, I'm just more and more like, oh man, this should be in everyone's house. And we'll get to that for sure. But if I may, not to drag it out, but what were some of your experiences when you were building this? I know you back when you were doing more with motors and things like that. What were some of the experiences where you kind of were met with that, with kind of that hard, fast barrier with the
That resistance kind of thing. Um, yeah, and it kind of predisposed me to seeing what's actually going on these days. But when I started working with fuel savers, I accumulated a file of about 80 different inventors that were all suppressed in one way or another, fuel saving inventors. And I went to the libraries where they keep the patent records and stuff, and I did the searches and to see what kind of technologies that existed before, and got the names of these various inventors and started researching them. And I found that virtually no patents for fuel saving had ever been successful. And I found patents as early as in the late 1800s. For example, Benz of Mercedes-Benz actually made a vaporizing type carburation system similar to what a fellow by the name of Tom Ogle did in the late 80s. And Tom Ogle supposedly died of a drug overdose, even though he didn't do drugs. It was so it could go on and on like this. And he had demonstrated a 100-mile-per-gallon carburetor. There was another fellow, actually he didn't get killed, but he got bought off, was Pogue, Charles Nelson Pogue, developed a 200-mile per gallon carburetor during the Second World War. And it was confiscated by the government and used in the fight against Rommel in Africa. So suddenly the tanks, instead of getting 5 gallons to the mile, started getting like 20 miles to the gallon. And and Rommel said he couldn't. That's what won the war. He said if it wasn't for the American long range tanks, he would have won the war in Africa. Literally said that. So this went into the fuel saving business that I was doing, and I could essentially double the mileage of any vehicle. And I was sending out fuel savers that could do that, get 100% increase in fuel mileage. And I went away on a sabbatical to write another book, because essentially what I did was to prevent the type of thing that I was seeing. I saw that the patent process had been converted into a way of suppressing inventors, because when you go for a patent, you don't tell anybody else about what's going on. You keep it secret until you get your patent, kind of thing. So, and there's a subscription service in the patent office where anybody can subscribe, and anything that comes new under a certain category, you get a notice on that. So these inventors who hadn't told anything just simply got suppressed, and then that technology was gone, kind of thing. So I bypassed that by simply writing a book and telling everybody how to do what I did for myself. And I was selling the books, so that made it public domain and unpatentable by anybody. So and I wrote about 24 titles of various things, the fuel savers in particular. At this particular time, I went away to write a book, and and I never had a problem when I was doing book sales, but when I started selling kits, that's what the actual devices. That's when I got into trouble, if you will. So while I was gone, my mailroom was sending out the people were purchasing, and they were sending out the fuel savers. That was the Hyco 2A that I'm talking about specifically right at the moment, and and those weren't arriving to the customers. Now my mailroom had instructions that if it didn't arrive within a month, we would just simply send a new one to the customer. I came back after about 6 weeks or so, and the second ones had gone out. And the second ones didn't arrive to the customers either. They just simply disappeared.
right.
So what I did was I sent out the third batch, which was everything I had left. I had no money left or anything like that. And I sent it out with insured value, because we weren't insuring our packages before that, of 3 times what the value was, so I could get my money back, right? When those ones disappeared as well. But those ones, and then what I had then after a month, I went in and with my insurance receipts, and I said, these have never arrived. And they said, no, you got to wait 90 days, like 3 months, right? So I was essentially out of business at that point because I didn't have any money to buy more parts or anything, and I owed my suppliers money, and it took me years to dig out of that particular hole, because after the 90 days, I went in with my receipts and I presented them, and they took them and started the process. Every single one of those customers received the package, and then within 3 days after receiving the package, received a letter asking if they had received the package. When they answered yes to that letter, I didn't get my insurance. Those son of a guns. So that's one of many stories. My phone was tapped, an operator told me that, things like that. So I was getting suppression in the fuel saver business back in the late 70s and early 80s.
And let's make it very clear here for the people listening. All you did at first was tell people how to save money on their gas mileage, saving gas mileage.
Yes.
People, and if I may, people were asking, hey, I don't know, I don't want to have to go and get the tools. So you provided these kits that basically just meant, here's how you can install it yourself.
Yes.
Do-it-yourself installation. Very simple, very easy to follow. And a lot of people did it. All people were doing were just trying to save money, save money on gas mileage and getting, as you said, double the gas mileage on their cars. Not trying to change different gas to water or any of that, just saving gas mileage. And it got to a point when you started selling these kits, people, well, the powers that be said, no, we're not going to allow you to help these people save money.
Yes.
Okay, right.
So around about that same time, I was investigated 7 times by various government agencies. Okay, from Canadian Consumer Affairs to various attorney generals in the various states and things like that. And every single one of those investigations fizzled out because it was not one unhappy customer that they could find to actually prosecute with.
See, and that's what makes it. This goes to show so many different things. But for those listening who go, why would they lie? Why would this happen? Just understand that it's a power grab and it's a money grab for a lot of these people. When you're, as you said yourself, you went from selling these books, taking the time to sell these books, to then creating the kits and making them affordable. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Because you said it was, it didn't take much part wise. You literally in your book had it where they can go to the hardware store themselves to buy it. So
that's exactly right.
And that's what's so fascinating when I was listening to it, just not being like, oh, we're being lied to. It was just going, isn't that something? How simple is, you said earlier, the answers are in front of us, just knowing how to put those pieces together, or have that awareness to connect the dots. And when someone does do that, just seeing how it gets suppressed the way that it does, but it doesn't stop you. And that's what it's an honor to keep talking to you and hearing your story, because with all that being said, and with the trials and tribulations, you're still following, as you said, that ability to help others and really help people not just feel better, but to really heal. And that's what's so great about this Aquacure. So if I may, I know I'm jumping around here, but I can't go crazy longer, but I want to talk a little about how does this Aquacure work? Like, how long should somebody have one? I know there's different frequencies that you might present on your Aquacure. Maybe if we can just kind of go into a little bit of that before we wrap it all up.
Yes, I kind of borrowed a thing from Henry Ford. I want one of these in every home because, quite frankly, the hydrogen bar is a good idea, but longer is better when you're doing things like the inhalation and stuff, especially if you really need it for serious therapeutic. You have the big C or any of the other kinds of illnesses like Parkinson's and ALS and virtually all the autoimmune diseases and what have you. All of those are essentially chronic lack of hydrogen. And as soon as you start inhaling, the things start to reverse. And it's absolutely astonishing to see somebody come back from some of these things. So I obviously can't, I'm not an MD or whatever, so I can't like prescribe or anything, but if for myself, I had to start relatively small bits at a time, because if I inhaled too much, I might have a negative weirdness, is what I call it. And it can be something as like a headache, or it can be feeling nauseous, or in my case, I couldn't sleep. Where my current wife, the first time she inhaled at about 15 minutes in about 6:30 at night, like I had done, she had the best night's sleep she could remember. So I'm just letting you know, there's no common ground. Your body knows what it knows. And I usually say to start with little bits, because if you've been on a fast, for example, and you could think of this, the hydrogen is a food. It's your most important macronutrient, in fact. And you haven't had it for a long time. Think if you've been on a fast for a month, you've had nothing but water, let's say, for a month. You wouldn't start with a 7-course meal. You'd start with a little bit of soup to kind of get your digestive system back in gear and going on. So that the hydrogen is similar for some people. Some people can just jump in and just inhale, and it's just fine. Some people, they feel this negative weirdness. And so you have to just kind of listen to your body as you're starting to inhale. And of course, drink your normal amount of water, but just make it that it's bubbled. And that's the best way of going about that. And then if you have any external ailments, then I say to put on, like if you have carpal tunnel syndrome, you put a bag on your arm and put the thing in. And most people, in 10 minutes, the carpal tunnel is gone. And all it is an inflammation of the tendons in your arm. And usually it's because of dehydration, not enough hydrogen. You're dehydrated. So as soon as that inflammation is gone and stuff, you have full movement, pain-free. Even people who have, I know of 2 instances where the people were going to actually have surgery to relieve the carpal tunnel syndrome. In 3 days' time, both these people, 3 days' time, 3 treatments each day, they no longer had to have surgery. They were pain-free. So it's that effective in things like that.
And that's
So
just putting it in a bag in a tube. Is it a tube then that's
putting it in a bag, yeah.
okay?
So I say when you inhale and when you drink, your body decides where the hydrogen and the EXW is going to go, the electrically expanded water, those electrons. Your body decides. It goes into your blood, and your blood distributes it around, and your body takes it where it needs it. If you apply the gas or water externally, then you are deciding. So if you have an arthritic hand, for example, and you put it on, then you are deciding where it's applied. But
Yep.
if you inhale or drink, then the body decides.
And so real quick, you have the 4 protocols at the moment. There's the hand, you can put it, as you said, wherever you want externally. There's
Yep.
gas, the inhalation, there's the bubbly water, and then the 4th one is just
So
having
2 with the gas, internal and external, and 2 with the water, internal and external.
okay.
So you can do the bubbled water on an age spot, for example. Lots of people have gotten rid of age spots with the bubbled water and rashes and things like that. Or if it's a wider area, or like the carpal tunnel or arthritis, then in a bag,
Right.
or a glove or whatever. Like even the dishwashing gloves work just fine. Anything that'll contain the gas, essentially.
So just furthermore, you're saying that again, it's changes with every person, finding time wise. You said that you can use it if you find comfortable. You can use it as much through the day, or you can break it up in incremental parts. That's just something to kind of find the individual, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It's important for therapeutic to know that you don't want to breathe too much volume. You want to breathe more time. When you're inhaling at 2%, which I am right now, 2% gas means that 2% of the air I'm inhaling has 2% of hydrogen in it. So of all the volume I'm inhaling, there's 2% hydrogen. So inhaling at 2%, my blood gets saturated in about 15 minutes.
Mhm.
And after it's saturated, you actually start exhaling any excess.
Interesting.
So there's no sense going to 4% hydrogen, because you're not going to get any more hydrogen once your blood is saturated. You're just going to exhale.
Right.
So what you want to do for their best therapeutic benefit, and there's been a study on this where a woman, a case study, so I can talk about it because it's scientifically, not me.
Okay. Yeah.
There was a woman who had lung cancer that had metastasized to her brain. And she decided to use Brown's gas only as a treatment, no any other treatment that medical science usually uses. And I think it was 6 months' time, somewhere between 3 and 6 months, she was diagnosed as her brain cancer was entirely gone, the metastasized, and the lung cancer was mostly gone. And all she was doing was inhaling the Brown's gas, but at least 8 hours a day. And so for people who need serious therapeutic value, what I recommend is inhaling at night. You just simply, like the people who have oxygen on at night, you just use the same sort of cannulas. They make nice soft ones that are easy to have on you at night. And you just inhale all night with the Brown's gas. And therefore, you're in one place essentially for those essentially 8 hours.
Yep.
And so it doesn't interfere with your day at all. You get up and you're good to go.
At like 1% or 2%, something very.
Yeah, at that point, if you're doing all night, I would recommend the 1%, because once the 2% is saturated your blood, the 1% keeps it saturated. And that's all you need to do is keep it saturated.
Yep. Interesting. And because this is where I think a lot of people their ears are even more so perking up. It's now asking the question, is there, other than some of those nauseous feelings, it's purely safe and effective, is that's been totally misused now in our mainstream, the scandals that are happening.
It's 100% non-toxic. It's only danger. The only possible danger that you can have is explosiveness. If you inhale too much, if you go over the 4.7% hydrogen that you're inhaling, it's still non-toxic. But if it explodes for some reason, if it gets ignited, and a static spark to the hose can do that. So people who are wearing clothes with static sparks and stuff, it could actually ignite. Well, there was one guy that was even smoking.
Yeah.
And he had the balls to tell me about it.
So you're saying this
It ignited the gas. He wasn't hurt. The gas just ignited back down the tube and into the machine. But it sounds like a rifle shot. You might have to clean your underwear, but it doesn't hurt anybody.
But you're saying this was him. This is also over 4.7%.
Correct.
Okay, so
and so if you're keeping it under the 4, I say 4%, but just go with the 2%.
Right.
Virtually all the hundreds of scientific studies that have been done with showing hydrogen for health, some of which are Brown's gas, have been done at the 2% level, and they are 100% positive. There are 0 negative side effects, other than these weirdness when the body's getting used to getting hydrogen again.
Right. And also, as you said, that's a lot of also people that I've learned, it's not listening, as you said, listening to your body. Listen to your body. It's this go big or go home mentality that we have in our society today, where it's kick the shit out of my body and then I'll deal with it after. It's like, did you listen at all? It's like, I ignored it, right? So it's just listening to the body. But it is good. And I know you have videos that talk about how to set it up and all these different components. But a question that I know that people will ask, you say it's safe, it is effective, is 100% non-toxic. What about with animals? What about with children? Because I know that's a huge thing that a lot of people are going to start asking.
I don't know about lizards because I haven't actually done it, but virtually all mammals and birds have done really well with and fish have done really well. We'll just go back to the plants. I have a blog that says plants don't lie.
Yep.
And it shows that if you feed the water to plants that are in a pot, they will grow 3 times faster than the plants that are not fed this particular water. And if you do it in hydroponics, the plants grow 10 times faster. They don't grow any bigger. They just get the nutrition they need to grow their natural self, which is one of the reasons why I think in the old days there may have been more hydrogen in the air or something like that. Nevertheless, going back to, and then the guy decided, because he was essentially doing aquaponics, he put the Brown's gas in the water that was also feeding the plants, but with the fish in it, and the fish grew 3 times faster. And so it wasn't just the plants that were doing well; it was the fish as well. So the gas is therapeutic to virtually all water-based life forms, whether it be a plant or a bird, or like this one farmer fed it to his egg-laying chickens, and they doubled their egg production overnight. Now, they did eventually go back to the normal egg production, but it showed that once the chickens got that nutrition that they needed, it just really
Yeah.
ramped them up. Yeah.
Could you give the water or the gas or any of the four protocols to your animals? Like you said,
Well,
mammals, like you can,
absolutely. It's difficult to give the gas to them because they really don't make cannulas for
but
for
I
animals.
just more so like any of the protocols, if you were able to, would be as sufficient and safe. So if I
Yes.
were to feed my
Yeah. Yeah.
dog the water, totally okay.
Yes, there's a few people that have been giving it to their dogs, for example, and the dog will lay where a cat won't, or something like that. But they take the cone of the spot applicator and they put it on the, like if they arthritic hips or something like that, and the dogs will. They tell me how the dogs come running for their treatment and jump up and lay down and get ready for being it. And this one particular woman did figure out, she put a cone on the dog's muzzle with the gas coming out so the dog could inhale some of the gas and what have you. And of course they do it in the water and for sure, but you have to change the water out like 3 or 4 times a day because the gas comes out of the water fairly quickly. It's not like having a sealed water bottle where the gas is kept in. Otherwise it comes out.
So when
So
you say change the water, is it a situation where you're having to buy a bunch of new things to change the water? Is it literally just putting new tap water in or filtered water into?
yeah, I use distilled water, but yes, for plants, you would use water that has minerals in it because that's part of the food for the plant, right? But for us, we get our minerals from the plants because the plants do all the bio thing to make it bioavailable for us. So for myself, I haven't drank anything but distilled water since 2005.
Okay.
And
You say I don't have a distiller, just where people don't have a distiller, do you need one? Or could you use, like I have a filtration system that we've purchased. Would that water suffice?
for,
You
for the drinking in your body, probably not too bad, but the machine itself does require distilled water.
does require, okay, that's
You
good.
put the pure water in, so you get the pure gas out.
Okay, that's good to know. Just because that might have been a question that people had in mind. And then did you say there is a frequency shift that or a change of frequency that you apply to it?
I put that option in. I am not a frequency expert, but I do have a document that I can give to anyone who wants to experiment with frequencies, and people have. In fact, just earlier today, I got an email from a guy who had developed his own protocol on doing that. I am what I do is I refer to people out into the internet to the people who are frequency experts, and then they can help them kind of thing. But the machine is capable of changing the frequency, and and I have had several stories about people. Now I set it at 432, which is a general health frequency,
Mhm.
and that's all I do. But the uh, but out there they've done some pretty nice work with finding frequencies that help people specifically for specific ailments and stuff.
That's yeah, that was something I heard in one of the lectures that a lady, the one in Germany, the lady tried the 432, it didn't work so well, but 528 worked really well. So
Yeah.
you said it's good that you refer people out. I mean, this is awesome, and I think now it might be a good time to wrap and talk about what it is that we can offer here, what is that you are bringing to the table. If I may, if you George has been kind enough to offer a nice, beautiful discount. I believe it's the 20% discount. So with the purchase of the Aquacure and the Pat in the code Pat Life, I don't know if it's we go with the lowercase? Is that what you put in? All
It
those
doesn't matter if it's lower or uppercase, but Pat Life just as is,
one.
PATLIFE. Yes.
Yep. So if you put in Pat Life, if you go, I'll put the website in, I'll put in all the information so you can go right there. You put in the passcode Pat Life, one word, no dot, periods or anything. 20% off the purchase of the latest Aquacure. As I said earlier, and obviously George believes this too, I firmly believe that if everyone can have one and wants to see that healing change in their life and start making that adjustment for self or family members, it is worth every penny. As we know, especially in the fitness industry, how many people are spending so much money on pharmaceuticals, how much people are so much on medical procedures. We all have ourselves or someone that we know have had to go through that terror, really just terror.
Mhm.
So to be able to get 20% off, which is $500, $499 off the $2,500 purchase of an Aquacure, looking at 2000, it is, in my opinion, every bit of it. And that is something that I will be doing myself. No question about it. And I just wanted to share that with everyone. And I'm grateful that, George, you've even considered that, being that you put your own time and energy into creating all of these. Is there anything you want to add to that before we kind of close things?
Three things.
Yeah, yeah.
First, consistency. It's very important that the machine get used, and consistency, and it takes time for various things, which is comes to number two. I offer a 1-year satisfaction guarantee with every sale. Without exception. It doesn't matter why you want to return the product. You can use it for a year and still get your money back, your purchase price back. So I've got a 1-year satisfaction guarantee because I want people to use it long enough that they actually get the benefit from it. And number three, I have a lifetime warranty. I want to make sure that people get what they pay for. And if there's any manufacturing defect whatsoever, we will fix it one way or another. We'll make sure that your machine is operational for decades to come. So those it's not just the cost, which, by the way, by the time you add up all the costs of your current medications and stuff, even if you're on Medicare, you still have cost. By the time you just, I mean, goodness gracious, just health. What's the health worth? What's an extra decade of healthful life worth? I wouldn't part with my machine for, if somebody offered me $1 million, I would, $10 million, I wouldn't.
Right.
It's
Well, that just goes to show you
not worth it.
It's, as you said, this goes to show it's not about the money. It really, like, and here's the thing. I'm saying this, I only support the things that I truly believe in. I mean, that's just hands down. And even with the training, if I didn't even believe in what I was saying, I would say I'm probably not for you. You're right. If there's just that disconnect. So what I am saying is coming from a genuine place. And as you said right there, what is your health worth? What is that extra 10 years? I know people would come to me just wanting to see changes in their body and trying to move because they want to spend more time with their children or their grandchildren. And to be able to help people without any of this information, and as long as it took, I look back in my own experiences going, if only I knew this, how much faster could those people have had that? And it's not like an anger. It's really going, now that I have this information, I want to do my best to get it out there because I know a lot of people who could benefit from this. Everyone could benefit from this.
Yes, as you know from my story, I'm very regretful of not taking advantage of my own technology decades sooner than I did.
But I will say from the bottom of my heart, I'm so grateful to have this opportunity and appreciative that you took that and you decided to, with all that the depths of your emotions and everything you had to deal with, being able to see the bright light, see, God, in my opinion, God's purpose for you in many ways to do what you're doing. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart. Can't thank you enough.
And thank you for having me on and being able to let me tell my story so I can help more people.
Well, it is an honor and it is a privilege, pleasure, all the above. But with all that being said, George, where can people, what's the website? I'm going to put in the show notes, but from you, what is it that people can find you?
So I started a dedicated website for this particular product. It's called eagle-research.life. So eagle like the bird, and then a hyphen mark, and then research.life, L-I-F-E. Mm-hmm. And you go there, you'll see my personal story and testimonials and studies and just a wealth of information about this particular technology. And then, of course, you can buy click on to buy the Aquacure machine, and it'll take you back to my eagle-research.com website to actually go through the e-store. But the eagle-research.life website will give you all the kind of information that you need.
Absolutely. And for those listening to this, I still recommend don't just take what we're doing and jump to it. I mean, if you do, great, but go check it out. I've looked through all of it. I've done the whole shebang with it and looked, and it's pretty amazing. So once again, thank you so much. I really appreciate everything you're doing. And, as time goes on and as things go, I'd love to have you back on. If there's any updates on things, learn more. If you have any, as you said, the new protocols come out, having you on to just chat about all these different net components, if you're cool with that.
I'm very cool. And I'm sure that your listeners will have questions that they want to have answered as well.
Yes, absolutely. I know a lot of people will, at some capacity, be reaching out, and so with open arms, people, he's here to help, and I appreciate that. But before we go, I do have one more thing. My dear friend, he runs a homeschooling site, and I also help promote his homeschooling. It's called Homeschools Connected. For those listening, that is something I'm very passionate about, is teaching children in the hands of people who want to give the kids proper education, not putting them in what we're experiencing a lot today. We're teaching them that you're the problem. For those who don't know, I will put in the show notes. It is as well a $5 off a $15 purchase for the monthly subscription. So it's $10 a month with P.A.T, just P.A.T. Again, this is giving you as a parent or soon to be parents the opportunity to give your child the education that they need and deserve, where they're in good hands and they're going to be taught all the lessons of not just the math and this and that, but learning how to connect with nature or whatever part of religion, or finding what it is that makes them excited about waking up every day. You can go to Homeschools Connected. Highly recommend checking it out. I have it as well, and it's fantastic. So on that, George, thank you so much. And please, everyone, go check out his website. Go check out what he has to offer. And yeah, man, on that, thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you soon.